So now that we finally have the entire Summoner Toolkit, I feel that it is only right that I do a reaction video to it. So I'm gonna primarily be going over static images because I'm trying my absolute hardest to avoid dungeon and story spoilers, and I know you are too. I have a little bit of Endwalker media tour footage in the background. Thank you to Ginger Prime for letting me use it. Yeah, a lot of people have been asking my thoughts on the Summoner. People have been like, oh my god, you're doing so many healer videos. And while I'm extremely excited for the Sage, I actually had no idea what the Summoner was doing until now. And like, honestly, like a lot of people are just like, oh my god, you're like the Summoner guy, you made like the Summoner quote-unquote Bible, and I don't know if I'd call it that, but now we're in 12-minute mega behemoth of a video. So like, made totally out of passion for the Summoner, so a lot of people were wondering like, what are my actual thoughts? And now I have tooltips. I'm gonna do a live reaction on me reacting to the tooltips, to the information, trying to piece it together. If you are looking for an elegant, well-structured video on going over the changes, this is not the video. However, if you want to see me absolutely lose my mind over the actual toolkit now that I have, or will hopefully have, some better understanding, this will be the video for you. I'm gonna try and keep my fangirling to a little bit of a minimum because I know that I can go over the top. But first off, we're gonna be looking at the Aetherflow skills. I guess we still have Energy Drain itself that is giving 2 stacks of Aetherflow similar to today, but we can also see that it is giving us further ruin. I can see that now, unfortunately, it has a duration which is very different than today. However, it's interesting to see the loss of like the edgy actions that give, or currently edgy actions, or eggy, I'm gonna call them eggy because everyone else seems to, eggy actions in the game currently generate like this currently in Shadowbringers, but it's cool to see that this is actually being shoved to be like an Aetherflow skill, I mean an Energy Drain skill. Sorry, we are definitely doing this live and raw. So likewise, we can see Energy Siphon, just like today, is going to be the area of effect equivalent, which is a nice option in big pack pulls. No damage fall off, it's going to actually be pretty decent. Pain Flare is going to be the same as today, AoE Spender, which gets me to Fester, which always worked as a like reward for keeping your damage over time effects, like a real big amp. Now it's just a raw burst of potency. Undeniably stuff that you want to be shoving in off the GCD between like weaves or whatever during the opener. Same use cases today, really, just you don't need to worry about dots. So I'm kind of wondering, my first impression of this is like, is this internal builder spender systems going to survive in the longer term design going into the future for the Summoner? Because the Aetherflow system kind of, I'm gonna be honest, it seems like a closed loop of generating like a further ruin. Like, is this really something that we see going forward? I don't know. I'm gonna have to see the rest of the kit, but right now I'm just like, is this a relic of the past? Like, why is this still here? I don't know. This just seems like it might be going the way of like the dinosaur soon. So now looking at the basic spells, we can see Ruin, which we already know upgrades to Ruin 3, and then Ruin 4 is something that you can only spend when you have further ruin. Okay, so that's how this is working, which we know that we get the further ruin as we just covered from Energy Drain or Energy Siphon, which, so this is going to be like a once every 60 seconds spender. Most notably, this is going to also be an area of effect, and it hits really, really hard. So it's very different from today where you're just like using it for mobility, you're just trying to get out more worm waves from Bahamut. So it's instant cast, so double weavable, mobility, so that's going to be all very nice perks. Oh, I actually missed this. So Ruin's baseline cast has been buffed, and oh lordy, this is a nice change. So similar to healers, and you guys, if you've come from any of my healer videos, you know I've been fangirling over this. 1.5 second baseline cast time, and that's a 2.5 second baseline cooldown, a GCD cooldown. And so this means just like healers, they need to get comfortable with the idea of moving and slide casting with that 1 second window. That's going to be a huge mobility boost just by baseline. They also are consistently going to be able to single weave with this. That's going to be huge. Like, guys, how to say it? Quality of life through the roof. I don't care if people say that I'm crazy for that. Like, to me, this is big. This means all of your abilities now are even more valuable than before, which, for the record, if you aren't like super aware of that, like abilities are anything that you can cast off the global cooldown, like things on the GCD minus the bard songs, because I don't know why, but minus the bard songs, if it says spells or weapon skills, you can be casting it off of the global cooldown. I don't know about bard songs. I really don't know, guys. Anyhow, cycling back off of that comes at the trade-off that Ruin 2 now isn't an independent spammable mobility ability. Like right now you can like spam Ruin 2 just to like weave around. Scholar can still do that. Scholar can't do that. And so it looks like Rune 1 is moving to Rune 2, which goes into Rune 3. Interestingly enough, Physic is still here, and it is now weavable cast because 1.5 seconds, you get the drill. But that actually, my question is, does this actually now heal for 400 potency, or is it in reality like 20 potency? Not 400, but 20, like in the current game where it's a kind of a meme that Physic is still around. If it's an actual heal these days, I think that a summoner might be able to save a few runs. Not talking like Savage Raids, obviously, but like Expert Roulette, high quality of life. I mean, if I want to pull out something into Expert Roulette, I want to make sure that I can help recover the party. So Resurrection is still here for the summoner, and I love it. This is the utility that I absolutely have always, and I mean always, appreciated on the summoner. Being a DPS with a revive will never go out of style. It will always be in style with progression, with raids, always in style. So we're seeing Outburst get a new paint job with Tridisaster, and wow, Tridisaster, have you ever changed over the years? It's just like, it was just a dot, but there was something else. Poor Tridisaster, it's probably just like, I don't know, it's like me when I was a teen. So now we're talking about some utility skills. So we're getting Radiant Aegis, and then we're getting Searing Light, and these are really, really pretty tooltips, and I do like them a lot just off the bat. I know that's irrelevant, but so, how to say it, Carby still made it through, and we still get them twerking like crazy in the battlefield, and I appreciate that. So Radiant Aegis is going to be Titan's shield effect without needing to swap out to Titan. And guys, you know, in my summoner guide, I still saw justification for Titan. Like, I remember I was thinking specifically at that time, Hades Extreme, when you got like knocked back the 2 DPS, you had to have like one on the southeast and then one on the southwest, and then you need to come up. Do you have any idea? Which I freaking hated when healers would ignore me, and then I'd be like, well, there went my life. So I'd pop out Titan, and ironically enough, just because weakness and death adds up to a higher DPS loss, Titan was a DPS increase for me and many of those parties, guys. So, you know what? Titan Shield, and this is like 40% HP buffer and ability weavable, blah blah blah. Really good, really good. I'm a tanky DPS. I like it. Searing Light, however, is going to be the new effect of Aether Pact, which is going to be a great addition to the kit and increase raid DPS a lot. 180-second Aether Pact is now being turned into 120-second raid cooldown, so every second raid buff window. But one problem with this is that it has a 30-second duration, not 15. So see, one of the problems with the raid buff window is that it is standard to go into 15-second duration, just based off of like Trick Attack and history and legacy of it. So 15 divided by 2.5, the standard baseline GCD is going to be 6, so that's going to be 6 GCDs. This 30-second duration window is going to be a nice buff, don't get me wrong, it's going to definitely add up to a lot of DPS, but it is, just because it's double the standard raid buff window, it will catch like 20-second buffs, but it's gonna miss like the 15-second big focus. Like, how to say it, I think I'd rather this if it was 15 seconds duration at 6%, but regardless, we're gonna get a lot of value from it. So baseline, we have Summon Carbuncle, which we then have baseline spells Aether Charge, Gem Shine, and Precious Brilliance, and Aetherflow. So these seem to make up the baseline part of your kit that you're going to be changing through the summons from what I understand. So Gem Shine looks like a single target spell, like a rune equivalent, kind of, sort of, but not weavable, so that'll be the difference. Precious Brilliance is going to be the Area of Effect one, still not weavable. There's no mobility window outside of slide casting. What these abilities are saying is that they're spenders for particular ruby, topaz, or emerald charges. I'm gonna have to see more of the kit to actually understand what that means, but so I guess that they are gonna be limited in some way. I mean, obviously, I guess through ruby, topaz, or you know what I mean. And so moving on to Aether Charge, it looks like the old Aetherflow system for the summoner way back in the day, or like the current Scholar Aetherflow 3-charge restoration system, but now it's giving ruby, topaz, and emerald arcanum instead of like the Scholar's Aetherflow stacks. I'm just gonna call them gems. So I do see that this, however, is a spell, not an ability, and so that means that it's going to be cast on the global cooldown. What's also nice is that it is on a 60-second cooldown, so this is going to align with every raid buff window, though it's not clear to me yet what this is actually going to translate into. Like, do you do Ifrit first, or Titan, or Bahamut, or Ruby Carbuncles. I have many questions at this point of the kit, but I digress. Just reactions here. I can't let myself deep dive off the bat like that. Like, everyone wants my actual first impression. This is hard. What is nice though is that this gives an extra potency boost to basic skills, and I say that since it is on the GCD, so you want to recover all that damage, but you might make it up later through the burst. I don't know. It's nice to see some benefit. Then there's our final baseline ability called Aetherflow, which looks like it's the big spender for capstone abilities, which likewise are going to have their own internal cooldowns for each, I guess. So we're talking Enkindle Bahamut, we already know this today at 8 seconds. Rekindle Phoenix and the rest. With that, we get to summon Ruby, Topaz, and Emerald Carbuncles. What seems to be weird is that there's 100 less damage on Ruby than the other two. I'm not sure what's up with that, and there's only 2 stacks of this attunement. I'm not sure why there's the difference, but pulling up ability tooltips, we can see that we can spend these attunements on abilities like Ruby Right and Catastrophe. I couldn't help myself, I had to look ahead. And those are going to be like single or AoE spenders of these attunements. So if I understand right, Gem Shine and Precious Brilliance are just going to change to these other like skills like the Ruby Right or Ruby Catastrophe. So we also have Topaz Right, Topaz Catastrophe, Emerald Right, Emerald Catastrophe. So Aetherflow becomes Crimson Cyclone, that dash, and then Crimson Strike. Oh. Yeah, that's the dash and then melee combo. You know what? My impression actually is that that's actually going to be pretty fun. I mean, I know I am really jealous sometimes of the red mage and how they can like jump right in. I don't think that we get a backflip. Else they would have shown it already, just because that's so flashy. But you know what? Having that mobility on top of Summoner's default mobility, I think is going to be really great. But we're going to have to see like how much mobility we got. So Mountain Buster just looks like it's an AoE spender. I'm not sure how that works. I think that we only get 1 charge of it, because I can't imagine a world where they would let us actively spam the Ifrit charge melee combo. Could you imagine? So Slipstream is just another nice AoE field. I'm kind of torn on placing that an AoE field down. I'm gonna be honest, guys, like I am not the biggest fan of Slipstream just for this fact, because when you place down the field, I've noticed tanks love to drag stuff out of it. I mean, ninjas are primarily complaining about it because they move it out of their Doton. That's like that earth AoE field that they place. I'm not gonna lie, I hope that that would be removed and changed to damage over time effect. So the headache continues. But one thing I did notice just reading over these is that Ruby Right and Catastrophe are the only spells with a cast time which are longer at a 3-second baseline. So Ifrit is going to be big, heavy hitting, but it seems to be risky gameplay. Like if I compare it to the other two, you have that dash in and the melee combo with the longer cast time, so it's going to be riskier in my mind. So it makes sense now why there are only 2 fire attunements now, just because melee is going to 860 potency just for those 2 abilities compared to Titan or Garuda. That's gonna big ouch. I mean, so you need to really weigh risk versus reward. Like, are you gonna die in melee? Or maybe you could use it to save yourself and be like, I know that this is going to have something where I need to come into the boss. It really could be nice for that. Likely in an opener or pinch, you want to use Ifrit for big damage, then when it's safe to do so, risky maneuvers like melee long cast times. Otherwise, enjoy freedom and mobility with Titan and Garuda. So I think it's safer to say it now than before, now that we've kind of like seen like Titan and Garuda have like instant cast. I am a big fan of mobility, by the way, like big fan. Like if this is your first video on my channel, I need to say I like big mobility, and I can't deny, though others players may deny, when a job walks in with a big DPS and a ton of mobility in your face. That's terrible, but it's true. I am not a black mage. Like, you guys know. Okay, tangent moment, but you know that I have actually sold out when you see me do anything resembling a black mage ultimate guide. That's when you're just like, oh, he's actually doing it for the views. Like, I need my mobility. I love the healer change just because of the mobility, and so I look at Summoner and I'm like, this is perfect. But guys, y'all know me by now. I love big mobility and I can't lie. So this gets us into Bahamut and Phoenix, and so Dreadworm Trance looks like an enhanced version of Aether Charge just based off of what I see here. It's like the exact same effect, but now you're getting like a extra Bahamut. It's kind of like when you go to like a restaurant and maybe they have like a meal of fries, but you get a side of like a burger. It's like the inverse of what I thought. It's just like you go there for like the burger, but the big meaty burger is actually Bahamut, even though you're getting the side of ruby, topaz, and emerald. I'm an idiot, but guys, you're asking for my reaction and that's what it is. Excuse me, Yoshi P, I will get the ruby, topaz, and emerald combo with a side of Bahamut, please. Thank you. So similar to Phoenix today, your single target spammable Ruin 3 becomes Astral Impulse, which is a brand new ability, and Astral Flare is going to be the area of effect equivalent from our basic AoE spammable button, both instant cast and so more mobility. Oh yes, and so this is basically the same idea as Summoner. I'm kind of happy to see that move into Bahamut too. So we're getting Akmorn and whoa. Okay, so also on top of that, we're getting Akmorn and Wormwave, which are gonna probably augment what we're actually funneling out, so even more damage spike per. And oh my gosh, Kindle Bahamut. Okay, so my eyes flicked earlier to this, and so I already knew that we were getting this, but it's 8-second Akmorns. This means we're getting like, so we're getting all of this value in this Bahamut phase, and so this means like Bahamut is hitting more damage into our spells, the new custom Bahamut spells. That means that the baseline abilities become buffed, instant cast. We also get to spam 2 Enkindle Bahamuts and a Death Flare into the windows. So Death Flare is the change of, what was it called? The Aether... I just lost it here. Aetherflow. What this all means in summary is we get to spam 2 Enkindle Bahamuts and Death Flare in a window. That's gonna actually be amazing. That's gonna be busy and fun. Now for Phoenix, same deal as today. Changes AoE spammable into Phoenix special AoE spammable, and single target spammable into Phoenix special single target spammable. In Kindle Phoenix, same idea as before, Slam Field with Flames, same idea as Akmorn that we just saw. One quality of life improvement though is that they do have an 8-second window. I actually know that I said it before, but it kind of hit me. Right now in game in Shadowbringers, it's 10 seconds between the Akmorn windows. Not that it'll let you get any more than just the 2 out. You do have a little bit more breathing room now. You also get the heal over time effect, which we know and love today, which is Everlasting Flight. 21 divided by 3 second ticks is going to be 7. 7 multiplied by 100 is... why am I struggling on this? 700 potency, which is always nice to help take some pressure off the healers in a fight. We are getting this new skill called Rekindle, not Enkindle, but Rekindle, and I'm going to mess those up sometime for sure. So Rekindle looks like some kind of weird heal over time XCOG equivalent, an Excogitation from Scholar. So it has an upfront 200 heal. That's very okay. It's an ability though, so it's off GCD Weave, so it's okay. It's not going to cost you anything. But where the real power is actually buried in this XCOG-like effect, where the person gets a buff, lasts 30 seconds here for this Rekindle, and that is going to pop when they hit 50% or lower HP, so it's exactly the same mechanics as XCOG for the Scholar, but rather than a burst of health like XCOG, it will slowly heal over time affect them. For 15 divided by 3 is going to be 5, and 5 multiplied by 200 is going to be 1,000 potency of healing. I'm trying to get better at the math. This is hard sometimes, guys. It's still early in the morning. Which it might sound silly, but you combine that with the Everlasting Flight at 700 potency, and there's no doubt, so that's 1200 multiplied, added by 700 is going to be 1900 potency of healing on a single target, and like that's, you're gonna notice it. Like I could say as a healer, especially as someone who plays barrier healers, that is going to be taking off some pressure, because right now it's like Sacred Soil and Caracol for the Sage, which is exactly Sacred Soil, is like 500 potency of healing over time, and so I am going to definitely notice this effect because I know I noticed those effects. And if I'm not using it to help the party, and I see myself doing this, I don't want to say sorry here. I don't want to say something catty like sorry not sorry, but like I'm not gonna apologize, because remember we get the Titan Shield that we can cast even without Titan being out, that new one, the new Carby equivalent. That's gonna be 20% max HP on 2 charges, so we can cocoon ourselves with a barrier and then also use this to heal ourselves. I'm not gonna apologize for prioritizing me not dying in a raid. Like, let's not forget, as a summoner, we have Revive 2. Yes, this is totally copium, this is totally justifying, but we have Revive 2, so our life is very, very valuable. Don't lower my DPS, bro. Come at my Bahamut, bro. So the summoner can pretty much sustain itself a pretty ridiculous amount, so this is going to all stack up nicely to a lot of durability. So I do see summoner being my go-to for pug groups for sure in terms of DPS. Loss of mobility, you have the berries to fend off incoming damage, you have some heals, And note that this is all really off the GCD, so unlike Red Mage with like Ver Cure, it's justifiable. You're not actually actively losing DPS to do this. I mean, I wouldn't hold Phoenix like you will, like just because this seems to be such a tight 60-second window, because remember that the Dreadworm Trance is currently 60 seconds, so you need to volley through like likewise, the Phoenix heals are going to come out every minute. That's going to be very nice. But I'm going to be serious. I'm a pretty big fan of this. People want to know what I felt on my first impressions, and I'm a huge fan. The Summoner is undeniably still going to involve a very decent level of complexity. Like, that Bahamut window is going to be very busy. I do see newer players still being completely overwhelmed when they go onto the Summoner. Like, remember that you still have that Aetherflow system and Fester to worry on top of all of these rotating playstyles, and lining up Searing Light in the raid buff window. Part of me even wonders if, okay, Searing Light tangent here, if maybe casting it slightly ahead of the raid buff window would be good, so then you can keep ability weaves open during the 6 or so GCD window, because remember, Ninja Strike attack 15 seconds. So maybe that is why the buff is a 30-second duration. The developers are saying, we will let you line up your raid buff even if you cast it before the window opens, regardless. But I'm even looking at Radiant Aegis, which is the like Titan Shield equivalent that we get in Endwalker, and it doesn't have a requirement to be in combat like the Titan Shield of today does. This leaves me wondering for real if we could maybe consider pre-casting it and help bar some initial raid-wide damage. I like it. I really like it, and for far more than just aesthetics. The aesthetics are amazing, I'm not denying that, but I am looking specifically at, would I want to actively use this kit? And so in terms of it, it's just like, the aesthetics are amazing, but the kit is divine. I'm gonna put that as like maybe I'll put that as my thumbnail thing. The point is, we have ever-changing gameplay with different life cycles. I have always loved that. That's something I have praised on the Summoner, praised on the Bard. I love it. I will always compliment this. We have that Titan, and then we have like the Ifrit Dash with the Ifrit melee combo. We have the Garuda and Titan massive mobility windows. Bahamut is going to be extremely busy. Phoenix is still going to be busy, but you're going to also be offering that party heal. You still bring all that utility, and honestly, part of me wonders how we're going to manage to fit all of this, because that is a lot of life cycle in a 60-second window properly. I do see newer players getting a little bit overwhelmed just because it's life cycle. Like, you are being broken up into very distinct phases. I love it, but I do think that some players are going to be like, whoa, what is going on? Whoa, everything's changing. I do, however, see, like, in an ideal world, you want Bahamut out during the raid buff window because that is just so many skills of damage. Phoenix is good too, but I see like Bahamut, just because you get the 2-act Mars, you also get the Death Floor, whereas the Phoenix gets that heal over time. You don't really care about the heal over time during the raid buff window. In summary, like, I am impressed with the actual toolkit, the actual things that you are actually going to be doing in game. I'm going to be doing a lot, and I mean a lot, of Summoner into Endwalker, no different than how much I love it today. So first impressions, if you guys want one takeaway, the Summoner kit, the actual kit, not the aesthetics, is an absolute win. This is actually incredible.